Hi! Do you know that educators spend almost 15 hours a week just manage the grades and the reports? Imagine to reclaim that time. Can we try to use our system called GraphIt? It's created by me and my teammates. I'm Xing, and my another two teammates are Daphne and Lambo. The purpose that we create GraphIt is to manage student academic performance more efficiently and systematically. We wanted to build a user-friendly platform for educators as they can easily to view the overall of the student grades. Besides that, we also want to save the time and minimize the human error on calculating the total and average of student grades. Additionally, we also want to avoid typographical errors like misspelling and others. Now I will introduce the strength in our program. It allows educators to input the student name, student ID, and the grades of each subject. In our program, it can display a list of all students with a corresponding score. It also can calculate the average and the total score of each student and able to analyze the strengths and the weakness of each student by displaying the maximum and minimum scores of students obtained. Besides that, we also can delete the input marks in our program, especially for those who are accidentally start the wrong marks or have the suddenly changes of the student marks. Last of the strength in our program is able to display a graph of student score in designated subjects. However, our program has one limitation, which is unable to input the mark weightage of each subject. Alright, I am passing the next part to Daphne as she will explain the input, output, and the process in our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Singing, for introducing our groups and briefly explaining our program. For our programs, there are 4 modules that are used, which is input module, output module, process module, and also main module. In our input module, there are 6 functions that are used, which is the first one, load student data. It likely loads student data from a file or database for processing. Second one, save student data. It save updated student data back to a file or database. For the third one, input subject is collects the list of subjects from a user. For the fifth one, it's a collect subject score function. It prompts the user to input the scores for subjects from multiple students. Fifth one, collect new student data. It's gather details from a new students, for example, like their names, their ID, and stores it. Sixth one, which is the last one, functions, which is input multiple students. It handle input from multiple students in bulk, potentially using the globes. In our process module, there are also 6 functions. First one, manage scores. It likely handles operation on student scores such as the normalizations and also validations. Second, get student by ID or name. It retrieves student data based on the ID name. Third one, handle update students. It manages the process of updating the students' informations. Four functions, handle delete student. It removes the student records based on the specific criteria. Fifth one, calculate student scores. It computes the aggregated scores such as the average and totals for students. The last functions in process module, assign grades. It assigns the grades to students based on their predefined criteria and also the score ranges. In our output module, there are 5 functions. For the first one, display student not found. It displays an error when the students' data are not found when running the programs. For the second functions, display updated data. It shows updated data for verifications after a change is made. Third one, student reports. It generates and displays a detail about the reports for students. For example, like scores, grades. It's basically like a real life reports that the school have. For the fourth one, print score info. It outputs the score related information such as average and also the other distribution. Fifth one, the last functions in output module, which is score analysis graph. It visualizes the score data such as the trends or distributions using the graph or charts. It's basically for the users to easy to see the graph, see their results by the graph. In the input module, under the save student data, the text file are created. For text file in this module, It stores the student data and subjects like their scores and also their grades. In output module, we use the Matplotlib application to create a graph that used to display the students' result and grades. That is under the last functions, which is the score analysis graph that I just discussed in the output module. For process module, we use the TK-Inter applications in this module. We use the TK-Inter message box in this module. There are actually several types of message box in TK-Inter. We use only two, which is message box show error for error alerts like invalid inputs and failure in running the codes. Other than that, we also use the message box show info for informational messages. Like here, we show the multiple results, multiple students found. Please select one statement in this message box. On top of that, we also use the simple dialogues applications. There are also several types of simple dialogues, for example, like strings, floats, and also integer. We use only two, which is string and integer. And manage scores, we use the simple dialogue string to prompt the user to enter for the user whether they want to update scores, delete scores, and also exit. Under the get student by ID or name, we use the simple dialogue integer for the user to enter the number of students they want to select. So that is all about the process, input, and output module. Basically, input module handles all input tasks like data collections and also storage. For process module, it handles all logic and operations on the data, for example, like calculating, managing, and also updating. For the output module, it handles all the displaying things or visualizing process data for the user. So I think that is all from me. I'll pass it to Leon. Thank you.
Then Daphne for explaining the input process and output module. I am Wu Renbo, and now I will explain the main module of the GradeAP system. Upon launching, the application load previously set student or subject data or initialize empty record if no data is found. It also displays a welcoming message from a welcome.txt file. The graphical user interface window titled GradeAP is set with a dimension of 400 by 350 pixels. Its subject table will be predefined. The system prompts user to input subject, and they will test through the setup subject function. The core of the application is the GradeAP class, which handles all the functionality. The main feature including the button of adding student records, adding new subject, managing score, viewing student record, generating score analysis graph, and saving before exiting. When clicking the Add Student Record button, the system asks for student information, including name, ID, and score, and save it. The Add New Subjects button allows the user to add additional subjects and finally save. The Manage Score button enables the user to update or delete student score. The View All Subjects button generates a detailed report of all students, including the name, total score, and average of enrolled subjects, grade, as well as any applicable comment from the user. The Show Score Analysis Graph button displays a graph of average score color-coded for pass or fail status. Finally, the Save and Exit button ensures all data is saved before closing the application. The application runs with a Twinkle window and ensures it starts when the script is run. The root window is initialized and the instance of GradeAP class is created. The last code command keeps the window open and responses to user action until the user chooses to exit. Now I will present a demonstration of our program GradeAP. During the first time setup, some users may experience longer processing time. Also, it is necessary for users to input the subjects, the number of tests, and their names and corresponding word text. Please note that if any total retest exceeds 100%, an error will occur, prompting the user to re-enter a valid word text. The input process will continue until the user enters none for the subject. After all subject has been entered, GUI featuring 6 buttons will be made available. By selecting a student record button, user will be required to enter a student name and student ID. They will also have the option to input student score for a single subject. Furthermore, user may optionally provide a motivation comment for the student. A confirmation message will then be displayed to indicate that the student data has been successfully set. By clicking a new subject option, user can add additional subjects utilizing the same procedure established during the initial setup. Ensure that the subject entered is different with the subject that has been entered. Next, by selecting Manage Score button, a symbol arrow will appear, providing option to either update or delete student score. For updating student score option, user can search for the desired student by name or student ID. This function allows for the editing of score of a specified subject or the addition of score of subject introduced at a later date. It is important to note that once scores are updated, both the student score and corresponding grade will be adjusted accordingly. For the option to delete student score, user may choose to remove either entire student record or a specific subject score as needed. This feature shows the change of student score after deletion. Upon selecting the View All Student button, the system will display the recorded score for all students. Subsequently, when the source score analysis graph is clicked, a graphical representation of student average score will be presented, with green indicated a pass and red indicated a fail. Finally, Save and Exit button is clicked to save student data before exiting. For subsequent login, the program will automatically present the GUI featuring this button and eliminate the needs for user to re-enter the subject that has been set. That's all from us. Thank you.